Today we need to talk about the nationwide intimate scene panic. When international audiences contemplate the defining characteristics of the British populace, they almost universally think of the legendary stiff upper lip, an unyielding dedication to emotional restraint, and an absolute mastery of polite understatement. For generations, the global community has watched acclaimed historical dramas emerging from the United Kingdom, entirely convinced that the residents of this island navigate their lives with supreme dignity and flawless social composure. However, a truly monumental nationwide investigation, recently published by a prominent British telecommunications provider, has completely exposed the raw, fragile, and utterly terrified underbelly of the national psyche. According to this fascinating piece of sociological research, an astonishing 76% of adults across the United Kingdom openly admit that they suffer from profound, utterly paralyzing awkwardness under a very specific domestic circumstance. And this mass psychological crisis is triggered not by economic instability, political upheaval, or sudden meteorological disasters, but rather by the unexpected appearance of an intimate romantic scene on their television screens. The sheer scale of this collective bashfulness reveals a magnificent cultural paradox, proving that a society historically famous for exploring uncharted global territories can be completely brought to its knees by a brief moment of televised affection. To truly appreciate the beautiful absurdity of this situation, international observers must imagine a typical British living room suddenly transformed into an absolute battlefield of intense, agonizing social discomfort. Instead of simply processing the artistic narrative of the program like mature adults, the vast majority of the population instantly activates a series of elaborate, deeply ingrained emergency defense mechanisms. The primary tactical maneuver utilized by 45% of desperate respondents involves staring aggressively at the living room carpet with the raw intensity of a scientist examining a rare biological specimen. These individuals will suddenly develop an overwhelming fascination with the microscopic weave of the flooring fibers, the trajectory of a stray piece of lint, or the structural integrity of their own footwear. They will remain utterly frozen in this downward gaze for minutes at a time, desperately praying to the universe that the actors on screen will quickly conclude their activities and return to a safe, respectable discussion about the weather. Even more spectacular is the radical strategy adopted by 29% of the population, who admit that their preferred method of crisis management is to flee the local architecture entirely. Grown men and women will literally abandon their comfortable sofas, leap to their feet with the agility of Olympic athletes, and completely evacuate the room to escape the terrifying audiovisual display of human biology. This desperate retreat is almost always marked by the sudden, frantic proclamation that the household urgently requires a fresh round of hot beverages, transforming the kitchen into a temporary sanctuary of emotional safety. The phrase inquiring if anyone desires a cup of tea becomes an absolute psychological life raft deployed with aggressive speed the moment a character on screen begins to unbutton their clothing. And there is a magnificent comedy in the logistical reality of millions of British citizens hiding in their kitchens, waiting for the kettle to boil simply because they cannot bear the burden of sitting next to relatives during a fictional embrace. And this profound terror transcends all generational divides, uniting grandparents, parents, and cynical teenagers in a beautiful, silent pact of absolute mutual denial where nobody dares to make eye contact. And it highlights a very specific brand of domestic madness that makes the United Kingdom one of the most uniquely entertaining societies on the planet to analyze from an outside perspective. While the global entertainment industry continues to push the boundaries of explicit storytelling, the British public remains stubbornly committed to the sacred art of pretending that human intimacy simply does not exist. In a contemporary media landscape continuously overwhelmed by heavy global news cycles, tracking this nationwide panic provides an unparalleled reason to smile. And it reassures us that no matter how complex our world becomes, the true heart of British civilization will always be anchored by an unyielding vulnerability to basic social awkwardness. So if you ever find yourself visiting the United Kingdom to enjoy a cinematic feature with the locals, remember to keep your eyes firmly fixed on the decorative rug at the first sign of romance.